The movie begins with David, a small-time drug dealer in Denver, Colorado. Denver lives in an apartment and his neighbors include Rose Jennifer Aniston, who is a stripper from a local club, and Kenny, a naive boy. Casey is a homeless girl is being robbed by some mobsters. Kenny and David go to save her, but instead, the mobsters want David's bag, which contains drugs. David runs from the situation and the mobsters follow him and eventually catch him. David has been robbed of his stash and his cash. Meanwhile, David's boss Brad Gurdlinger, Ed Helms, calls him, but David ignores. Brad sends goons to kidnap David. David is brought in front of Brad. Brad demands that he repay him by smuggling a large amount of marijuana across the border from Mexico. To avoid suspicion at the border, David comes up with a plan to create a fake family and pose as tourists. He recruits Rose to play his wife and Casey to pose as his daughter. To complete the family, he enlists the help of Kenny to play his son. The Millers set out on their road trip, but things quickly begin to unravel. As they reach in the drug factory in Mexico, the dealers load tons of weed in the RV. As they leave the factory, a cop stops them and tells that he knows about the smuggling. The cop asks for a bribe of $1,000. David tells him that he doesn't have that much cash with him. The cop then asks for something a little special instead of cash. David turns to Rose and tells her to suck the cop's dick. An argument arises between David and Rose. The cop resolves the situation by telling them that he is a man who prefers the company of a man. Now, Rose turns to David and tells him to suck the cop's dick. David persuades Kenny to do the job. Meanwhile, father and son are discussing the situation. The cop interferes and asks whether he is getting a BJ or 1,000 pesos. David quickly takes out a $100 bill and hands over to the cop. All the time, David was thinking that the cop is asking for $1,000. Finally, the Millers arrive at the border. David applies a hard brake, and a stash of weed falls on the lap of Rose. Rose covers the stash with a blanket and pretends that it's a baby. The dogs start to bark at the RV, and the family is asked to get out of the vehicle for inspection. As the cop is about to enter the RV, a group of illegal immigrants run from beneath the RV. The cop apologizes from David and tells him that it happens a lot. The trip goes on. While driving, the temperature of the RV increases and the engine seizes. While standing on the side of the road, all helpless, another family on a vacation in RV shows up. They tow the RV. While the families are chit-chatting, Edith tells that her husband Don is an ex-DEA agent. The families arrive at the mechanic's workshop and find it closed until tomorrow. Now, the two families decide to camp together. The night passes, and the next day, the RV is brought to the mechanics and the Fitzgeralds leave. As David enters the mechanic's workshop, he finds the mechanic tied to a chair. A person points a gun on David's head as he is talking with Brad on the phone. It becomes evident that the man Pablo Chacon was supposed to take the drugs from the factory, but Brad stole the drugs from Pablo by using up David and his family. The Millers manage to escape from the workshop, and Kenny is the driver of the RV. A spider appears out of nowhere and bites Kenny on his private parts. The parts get swollen badly and they went to a hospital. Kenny gets healed up and they are about to continue their journey. Near the RV, David accidentally tells his family that he is getting $500,000 for this job. Casey and Rose become enraged as they are getting only $1,000 and $30,000 respectively. Then comes the iconic scene of the movie. Kenny hears them arguing and asks, "Wait, you guys are getting paid?" Turns out that Kenny is doing the job for free. The Miller bond breaks and everyone turns his own ways, but not for long. The family reunites at Carnival after 3 or 4 hours of staying away. The climax of the movie arrives when the Fitzgeralds appear again and find out that the Millers are smuggling. Things get even more interesting when Pablo Chacon appears too. After a brief fight, Don finally arrests Pablo Chacon and let the Millers to flee. David arrives at Brad's place and Brad tells him that he is not going to pay David a single penny and that they are even. Suddenly, a DEA team barges in and catches Brad red-handed. Don is leading the operation and tells David that in exchange for the testimony against Chacon and Gurdlinger, David and his family will have to stay under the witness protection for next 3 to 6 months. In the last scene, the Millers are shown living in a beautiful home like a lovely family.